Hey everybody, it's BTC Gambler. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're keeping well. Listen, today's video is long overdue. Long overdue. So this is a new build guide. If you're interested in Alphaverse and you want to set it up yourself, this is the video you need to watch. This is version 9 of my setting up Alphaverse the easy way. Version 9. I'm going to try and make it as easy as I possibly can. But if you're new here, first off, welcome to Alphaverse. And if you don't know what Alphaverse is it's very unique. It's a unique gambling system designed for fully automated gambling and recovery using many accounts. My goal is to work with all of the Stake Originals games. So far I've done Dice, Limbo, Roulette, Dragon Tower and Diamonds Poker, and I'm very close to getting Blackjack done, and then I'm going to work on the rest of the game. So this is a platform that you can play, because if you use a dice bot, usually they're sort of tied to one particular game, but this will work on any game, and it's all using API betting. And if you're used to coding dice bots, you'll be very familiar with using Alphaverse. So this is a build guide, and this is end to end. So obviously big news, everybody, is that Alphaverse is now, it's not locked down. So anybody can install Alphaverse now. It's on a public GitHub repository. It's got a new location and it is available to pretty much anybody can download it. And all you need to do is follow these guides. So if you're new here, again, welcome. An overview of what Alphaverse does. It manages lots of accounts. And the idea being is that you're designed to play them with a much lower start balance, but you've got this conceptual idea where you have centralized recovery pots, and you see these green ones here. These are like recovery pots, and they sit in the vault of the account, and should one of the accounts bust, hopefully you might get to see one, you don't know. If one busts, you'll see it will report bust. It will send out a beacon to a server. The server picks it up, and it will tell that account to tip the recovery pot to that account, and it recovers. So it's fully automated. I've been running this continuously for 5 days, 1 hour. And that's the whole idea. It's designed to run non-stop. You know, very little intervention from you. So it's very unique, and yeah, it's completely free. So just bring in the instructions. Okay, this may well be an attachment as a PDF by the time this goes live, but I'm going to go through the whole setup. And the setup includes what are the prerequisites, and they're obviously very important, guys. And then we're going to talk about how we build a server, because the way that Alphaverse works, it has a master central server that coordinates everything. It doesn't have access to the casino or anything. It just literally coordinates the clients. And then you have a client, and on that client it's got 3 distinctive separate pieces of codes. One is the client software that talks to the casino and the server that updates its status and its balance. And the other one is the actual betting itself, which is using JavaScript. And it's if I get time, I will show you by the end of this video. And the third and final part is something called an Alphaverse agent, which is like a reverse proxy that allows connection in through Cloudflare. But I don't want to waffle on too much, because I suspect that most of you will already know what Alphaverse is. And if you don't, there are other videos. You know, you go and look at my, do a deep dive into what Alphaverse is. So this video will be quite a long video, guys. But it will be broken down into chapters, so you can skip to the section that's going to be relevant to you. I suspect if you're going to be building this for the first time, you probably will need to revisit this video a number of times before you get it right. It's not that difficult to get up and running. You know, don't let things scare you trying this. You know, you don't know unless you try. You got to try. And I've tried to make it as easy as I possibly can by giving literally copy and paste statements that you can just paste into it. So I am going to explain how to install Alphaverse, but I think it's very important to just make a distinction here and state what this video is not. So one thing, this is not a masterclass in how to set up Linux. This is also not a masterclass in what hypervisor to use, whether you use VirtualBox, Zen Server, VMware. That's not going to be discussed today. There may be discussions within Discord, But I'm going to jump straight into this because I don't want this video to be too long. Okay. And then we're going to start off with what are the prerequisites? What is needed before you even think about Alphaverse? And I put these into a separate section here. So first and foremost, I just change the order of those guys. So it's not mandated, but it's highly recommended that before you do anything, that you actually come along and join a Discord server, because in the Discord there's a section dedicated just for Alphaverse, and that's where all the tutorial videos are going to be. And more importantly, even more importantly than my tutorial videos, that is where the community is. Other Alphaverse users, where people share like ideas and scripts. Yeah, it's a great community of like-minded people. Right, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Like I said, I don't want to make a fuss about it, but the prerequisites, come and join Discord. And when you join Discord, yeah, there's a whole community there, guys, around Alphaverse. But these channels, like and all the videos, training videos, scripts, tutorials, codes to run, ideas, they're for VIP only members in my Discord. And so one of the things that I do ask you to say is there was a video here dedicated. It says how you become a VIP. It isn't that difficult, but it's like almost like an entry level requirement of expected knowledge before you join this, because this stops us, repeating the same question over and over again. Yeah, and finally, you do need a copy of Qbot. So I want to make, if you're not familiar with Qbot, let me show you, is probably one of the most awesome bots that exists ever. So here's Qbot, guys. So if you're not familiar with it, it's got all of the Stake Originals games in there, and it allows you to play ideas out. Alphaverse is not a competitor to Qbot. In fact, it's a complementary tool, because I find that Qbot you will find later on it's an essential tool. If you're going to run Alphaverse, what I'm not going to say to you guys is going to tell you what to run. That is totally up to you what you decide to run. But whatever I do run, I always run it on Qbot. So I get my grounding foundation upon any strategy that I'm going to deploy in Alphaverse. It's fully vetted on Qbot, and that's why it becomes like almost like a mandatory essential tool. There is a link there. It is a referral link. Let me bring that back up. I want to point out that the creator of Qbot was instrumental in the creation of Alphaverse, and so to show our appreciation to him, let him know that Mr. BTC Gambler sent you. So use the referral link. I'll be very grateful for you done that. But we may or may not come back to this later. I don't want to talk strategy. I just want to do build. Okay. Yeah. It mentions here about VirtualBox. So I just took out a line there, guys, because I'm not talking about a hypervisor today, because it did have instructions to install VirtualBox. But whatever hypervisor you're going to be using, it should be exactly the same process. I'm going to be using Citrix Zen Server, but it's the same as XNG, and you can be using whatever you want to be. You could be cloud provider, and there will be discussions and videos dedicated on that one subject alone. But I think what would be ideal for anybody that wants to dabble with Alphaverse is to kind of get their own little mini setup going. I think that's the main goal for today, is to get you set up with a miniature setup. So you do need to download a couple of things. So you need to download the latest version of Ubuntu server, and there's the URL there. You will need WinSCP, and you will need PuTTY. There are other tools like Multi-Putty Manager, which I use, but again, outside of the scope of this particular video, is about getting you up and running as quick as possible. Optimization, administration will be covered in other videos, because we've got a lot to cover in just this one video. So they're the prerequisites. Join Discord, become a VIP. It isn't that difficult, guys. You will need Qbot, not at this stage, but you will need it later on. And I'd be grateful if you use the link to let the creator know that he's come from Mr. BTC Gambler. You need to download Ubuntu, WinSCP, and PuTTY. Now we get into the server build. Now this is quite boring, this part, and it should be relatively easy. And it really is just like literally copy and paste. Move this out aside. So I'll only bring you back in for the bits that are important. So we're using 2204 Ubuntu server, and I'm just going to call it anything at the moment. And I'm just going to obviously specify the Ubuntu server. Now I'm going to set this as having 2 virtual CPUs and 2 gigs of RAM. I am going to edit the size of the hard drive. I'm going to allocate 30 gigabytes of hard drive space, and then I only want one network interface, and I will double check that before I keep this off. I don't want it to start. Yeah, that's fine. So for me, networking 3, but it'd be whatever yours is. It should be good to start this. Now, if all going well, it should install, boot up from the, it has booted up from the ISO image. It's important to pay attention to the minor details in this setup, because it's very difficult to undo them if you make a mistake. So yeah, be mindful. I have made a couple of mistakes in the past that I've regretted, and one of the ones is the partition, which I'll show you in a moment. You don't accept the defaults. Okay, obviously you set your keyboard, your location. Mine is in the UK. I'm not going to bother updating the installer. Click on done. We're going to install Ubuntu server. So sorry if this is boring, but it's really important that we get these bits right. So it's picked up a DHCP address, so I will stick by that for the moment, but later on we will change that to a static IP. Just going to pretty much, once this is updated, accept all the defaults on this. Now this is the bit you need to change. If you don't take this out, it doesn't matter how big you set the hard drive to, it will only set 15 gigs for the root partition. So, and that can get very full, especially when you, after you've been running for a long period of time, you've had lots of updates. So this will use all 30 gigabytes on the root. So take out that checkbox which sets up this disk and LVM group. And you can see there that it's using all 30 gig. Continue that. So for the purpose of this video, the username is going to be user, and the password is going to be password. Very secure. And because we're going to be creating templates, I've just got to call this alpha hyphen. Click on continue. I do need to install SSH server. Click on done. Click on done. And then this will install. I'm going to run a couple of commands, which is sudo update and sudo upgrade. And after they've done, because they can be quite slow, I will bring you back. Okay guys, so I've installed Ubuntu. I've saved you the boredom of having to watch the install of Ubuntu, and I've run a sudo update and upgrade. I'm going to give you, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by showing you that. So yeah, and when you reach the stage where there's nothing new to upgrade, so we reached a point where we can continue the build. Yeah, we're just going to follow through the rest of these commands. So the first thing we're going to install is NetTools. And the reason we want NetTools is because, yeah, we're not going to be able to connect to it. Yeah, you can't copy and paste commands into it. So I've installed NetTools, so we should be able to run an ifconfig. There we go, 172.18.1.154. So I should be able to run a putty session to that. And I should be able to run a WinSCP session to it as well. And that's much, much easier. But before I do that, I'll put these in the commands, but we're going to change it to a static IP. Okay, there's the command now, and I put those in the instructions as well there, guys. I've added it here. Some of you will be going, why are you telling me this? Now there is setting up a static IP is a bit finicky, so like there is actually a static configuration will be in Discord that you could just copy and paste. Okay, and just change your IP accordingly. Now I need to find a free IP. Okay, for my particular use case, I've set my IP address 10.0.99.1, and I've set the gateway, and I've set the DNS server. And then it's just sudo netplan apply. Okay, so I've actually got host entry in my local machine, and I should be able to just connect via the host name. I can use okay, we're in. So we just need to like quickly run through these commands. So we set a static IP, we've done the NetTools, and we've just run through these commands one by one. So that's Node.js installed. SSH pass may already be installed. JQ is a tool to extract information from the client config using the bash scripts, and then we're going to download NVM and install it. Now, the odd thing about NVM, we do need to log out and we have to log back in so that NVM is usable, and it does state that here. And then we can continue. Okay, we're good to go. So now we're just going to download and install Alphaverse on the GitHub repository. You see now there's no need for a username and password. You're just straight in, no need to sign your life away. And that should be there. See the Alphaverse, it is. So we need to make the bash scripts executable. Chmod, we need to do that in the Afterthoughts live folder. Now, so for you guys, so like, I'm going to stop the build here, and I'm going to create a template, because this is like going to be like an Ubuntu template, because I'm going to use this template to deploy the client as well. So it's just going to make life a little bit easier for myself. But I am going to do one thing which is above the Call of Duty, which probably you guys don't need to do. Yeah, I'm going to install the Zen integration tools. This is running Citrix Zen server, so I've downloaded them. Yeah, and I just need to, this is only relevant to me. Yeah, I'm just going to install the Linux guest tools. This is a one-time operation. It's just going to reboot. Okay, we're back in. So I'm just going to make one final change. I'll add this to the instructions as well. The server doesn't know how to talk to itself. So we need to give it its own host entry. This is going to be called Alpha Server Test. So we're going to need to add that to the host file. Each client needs to know how to talk to the server. Ideally, each server knows how to talk to every client, but that's only for administration, and that probably will be covered in another video. So in the host file, it's got a load of crap in there. Control and K deletes the line. Don't need that. So it's 10.0.99.1, and it's called Alpha Server Have and Test. Now, from my point of view, it should say that it's got hardware virtualization assistant installed. It has. So I'll shut this down. Now, you may not be doing this, but I'm going to convert mine to a template, and I'm going to immediately redeploy one. And we're going to call this Alpha-Server Test. Call yours whatever you want to call it. I came back in, so it's rebooted. So I've deployed a machine from there. It's called, I'm going to change the host name. This isn't particularly important, but just for cleanliness. So we're back here. We haven't done anything with Alphaverse. We've downloaded it. We've added the executable rights on there. I want to briefly show you in Visual Studio. So when you download Alphaverse, you get a package.json file. So if you know anything about Node.js and the way it works, yeah, the package.json file, when we do an npm install, it picks up all the dependencies and installs them. And there's a different set of dependencies required for the server than there is the client. The server has more intensive, it's got less entries, but it's actually got more intensive entries. And one of the big ones is Puppeteer. That's quite a heavyweight application. So we didn't want that installed in every single client. That would put such a strain on the infrastructure. I've had to separate the package.json from the client than I did from the server. So I couldn't find an easy way of doing this because it's under the same folder. So when you run a git pull, when you install the server, the package.json file is called server.package.json file. So we basically need to delete the package.json file that's there, and then we need to rename the package.json server.package.json to package.json, and that's covered here. I just copy and paste the commands. It was in the Afterthoughts live folder, move the package.json, and we're using the move command to move it and just to rename it basically. And then we have it, and then we can just run to install Alphaverse, this npm install, and that will pick up the dependencies, and then we're going to run a command npm upgrade. Now guys, if you're running an older version of Alphaverse, there were loads of security vulnerabilities that were identified. You need to download this latest version, and they were packaged up in the app image file. There's no npm upgrade that will fix this. And when it says there's no vulnerabilities, we're good to go. We will be at this stage here. Now while it's doing that, there is a website I need you to go to generate 2 passwords. You don't have to do this, but basically we want 2 passwords. One is 22 characters and the other one is 64 characters long. See, we've got no vulnerabilities found. I wasn't showing the instructions. So what we've done all of this, including this bit. We've done, yeah, A couple of other things. This one here. This is pertinent only to the server. And it's only relevant if you're running a VPN, which I will be. Now this does install a version of Chrome. Yeah, that's what we want. It says no file or directory found. So that's good. So I'm going to use this website. And we're going to generate 2 passwords. One is 22 characters long. The only thing you need to make sure is that you don't use ambiguous characters. So take these out. They could be misinterpreted as those commands. That changed annoyingly. So we generate password. And these are going to be used throughout your whole environment. So yeah, try to keep a record of these. The first one is going to be used to authenticate you against the Alphaverse web server that you run against. And the other one is actually a socket connection, so it's an auth token, and that's why it's 64 characters long. This is like embedded security. Okay, we've got those 2 passwords. Okay, so that's been done. So the important thing now, and especially if you're new to this Alphaverse, this bit you really need to pay attention to. So the 2 files that we're going to modify is the client config and the server config, and it's really important that you get these bits right because they won't work unless they're done properly. So the client config will be blank. Okay, so that auth token at the top there, that's that long password here. And that is going to go in the client config and it's going to go in a server config. The master host would be HTTP followed by your server name. If you don't have a host entry, you'd have to put your IP address in there. And then :3000, which is the port number that Alphaverse listens under. And we need to put the same here in. We just need to put alpha-server test. And we need to put the sudo password in, which is this one here. So it's really important you do that, because if you don't put these in there, a lot of the bash scripts won't run because it uses JQ to extract these out. So if we're running commands, for example, if we're creating them, part of the optimization of Alphaverse is to run a lot of things in RAM. And so dynamically it creates a RAM drive and it needs the sudo command to do that. And when we start the server, it uses JQ to extract your server name, and it's using this API server to extract that information out. And if they're not populated, it simply won't run. So it's important to put the auth token, the master host, the sudo password, and the API server. Interesting, it's got simulate mode to true, and I probably will change that on the default GitHub repository to false. And make sure that's false. Simulation mode will be covered in another video, so you can actually run Alphaverse completely in simulation with simulated funds. And you put them in the client config here, what balance you want. And you can even do simulate recovery pods. So keep an eye on that. That will be my next video, how to set up Alphaverse in simulation. So that does this client config. We need the server configuration. We need to put in there that the auth token, which is that 64 character, which should still be in my clipboard. Now the username is where when you open up Alphaverse, it'll ask for username and password. So you've got to set it in here. So I'm just going to set mine to BTC Gambler. And the password will be super secure password. Well, actually it won't. What am I talking? It would be that 22 characters. Not to confuse things. I don't want to confuse things. That would be the 22 character password. This one here. Now recovery pound, we'll cover that later. That's the recovery pot size. There's just a default number in there for some reason. That's 877. I'm not even sure why. But obviously when you're running live, you need to change that. Okay. Do you know what? We are practically done on the server side. As it says here, we should better just run the server and we should better connect to it and the server should be up and running. So if I go screen-r server, it's running. So I should be able to open up a web browser. Okay. So I put in here the username and password that we set in the server config. We're running. If you got this far, congratulations, you've just got Alphaverse up and running. You've got the server up and running. There's no clients attached. And this kind of like puts a bookmark in this video, and we're going to move on to the next section, which is talk about how we deploy a client. So congratulations on getting this far. Okay, we're ready to deploy the client. So for me, I'm going to deploy from the template, but if you're not deploying from a template, like I said, this video isn't about the hypervisor. It's important to install the integration tools, whatever hypervisor you're using. It should be exactly the same whether you're using VirtualBox, anything that you're using. But you need to ideally install the integration tools. But if you're not deploying from a template, then you have to go for the install up until the point where you've done the npm install and npm upgrade. Well, actually, I wouldn't even do that. I'd get to the point where you've done this. Do the rest of the stuff. And I'm going to give you guys the intelligence and say, like, assuming, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you go through and hold through every single step of it. So I'm going to call this alpha client -test client 1. Now this will actually break my server because I set a static IP on my template, which in hindsight was a bad idea. But I'll instantly change that, and I've changed that to, I've added a host entry in my Windows machine to 10.0.3.2, so that would be the first thing I'll do. Okay, that's done. So I've changed the IP address, and just confirm I can ping it. I can ping it by the host name. So basically we've done all of this because I deployed from a template. So if I run a putty session, now the additions that we're going to do to this, there's a neat little tool here that I came across. It's going to do a global install of the npm check updates. This is part of this security patching. So actually, since the point I published this on GitHub, there have been some update on the dependencies. So what this would do, this would check your dependencies in your package.json file and to see if there's a more up-to-date version. And so when we run this command here, it will go off and check to see if any of your, so that's NCU's npm check update, and it will -u would automatically update your package.json file. So we go into this Alphaverse Live folder. It's important that you're in the Alphaverse Live folder because the package.json files doesn't exist in the root folder. This will go off and check to see if there's any updates, and there has been. You see it's updated. So now when we run an npm install, this will be fine. But we're going to upgrade those, and we want it so it says none. So we've done the install, now we run the upgrade. Right, we've got no vulnerability. So we're missing a couple of commands here, which I'm going to add in here. So we need to run a couple of scripts. So the first one is we need to run this command here, build agent.sh. So this builds the Alphaverse agent. So I'll add this in here. So if you don't run this, it won't launch the agent because it's not installed. So this will actually install the agent. This used to be wrapped up in an app image file. Okay, I've added another command there, guys. So it's npm install global yarn. So we run that again. So I've added it there, global yarn. Then you run the agent. Okay, and then we need to run one more command. That's really important. We need to run this add cleanup cron job. So it's a one-time task. It creates a cron job to clean up orphan screens. If you don't run this, you'll find that you run Alphaverse for a little while and the whole thing bloody hangs. It's because it's got a bunch of, if you did screen dash list, you will see there'll be loads of screens. And so this cleanup job runs every 5 minutes. And it just cleans orphan screens off. So it's quite important to run that. So I will add that to the instructions. So there come some of the big changes here. So the big one here is we're going to install a desktop into this environment. And I'm using GNOME as a desktop. And I'm making sure that I'm only installing the very basics. These 5 commands have basically been copied and pasted. So I've installed the GNOME desktop, startup applications, GNOME software, Infuse, and Control Center. So the command we're going to run here is going to set it so it automatically logs in. So we need to modify this custom.conf under GDM3, and we're going to say unhash this so automatic login is enabled equals true, and the automatic login we usually set the username, and mine is user, so it would be whatever yours is. Okay, and so we should be very close actually. So I'm going to reboot this. Hopefully it should automatically launch into the desktop. It should automatically log in. Okay, this is really promising, guys. So it's launched the desktop, and we're going to make a couple of changes here. We're going to go to settings. You don't have to do this, but I find I do this. It's just really annoying if you don't do it. It locks the screen every 5 minutes, so I just turn everything off. But that's the only reason you need the settings button for. And we got startup applications, and we're going to remove whatever's there. It's not needed, and we're going to browse to the Alphaverse Live folder, and we're going to go to the bin folder, and we're going to say when you launch, start the agent. Yeah, there's a bash script to start the agent. So if all's going well, we should do a reboot. It should automatically log in, and it should launch the agent. Here we go, guys. So it's automatically launched the agent. It's gonna fail for me, which will lead very nicely into the next session because I need to use a VPN. This is blocked for me. But before we do that, I'm going to open up a WinSCP session. Okay, guys, so I've got the WinSCP session open, and we're going to need to populate out the client config and the server config. Actually, what we can do, guys, we can actually just copy over the server config and the client config from the server. Hopefully that's picked up the configuration. It's got the auth token, it's got the master host in there, everything's all set. It's got the sudo password, and very important to make a note, I mean, just in case I forget, that the CMNAME needs to be set to false. Now what you will need to put in there is your casino username, API key, your casino password, and your two-factor secret. There will be a separate video how to create accounts and add them to Alphaverse, but that won't be part of this video. Particularly when it comes to setting up the two-factor secret. If you've never done it before, I mean, you can just reach out for help in Discord and make your comments aware, and we'll help you there. But that requires a separate video altogether, and this video could be too long already, and I don't want to put everybody off, especially for the ones that have already got Alphaverse up and running. One, they may not know to upgrade to the latest version. Two, they may not know to run the script to set up the agent. Two, they may not know to add the cron job to clean up the orphan screens. So yeah, there's some optimization. Even if you've got Alphaverse installed already, it's worth redeploying a template. So what I'm going to do for the purpose of testing, I'm just going to populate this out off screen with real account credentials. I'll be back. Okay, so this is a section dedicated just for VPN. Even if you're on a VPS and you got a dedicated IP address, you may well still need a VPN. And the reason you may well still need a VPN is because you may get rate limited, or for some reason, they may block your IP. The ability to change your IP becomes really quite important. So even if I've had issues before where I've had my IP blocked. Thankfully, on a VPN, it's fine. So I've tried to make this as easy as possibly can, because VPN is not the easiest thing to get up and running. And so we're using PIA, so private internet access. And the reason I'm using private internet access is because it's the only provider that I've found that is actually large enough to give me a unique IP address on every single client. That is absolutely critical. I nearly lost Alphaverse once because I was using the same IP across multiple agents, and that caused issues in the casino side, and they said they may have to pull the plug, and I had to find a solution. So the setup of the VPN is quite complex. It took me a long time to master it, but I have tried to make this as easy as I possibly can. And one of the things that's really important is that every single agent must have a unique IP address. Okay, and that's coded within Alphaverse. So in Alphaverse, we keep a track of the IP addresses. Now, if you've got a duplicate, it will mark it as yellow. It used to block them, but It's not so critical anymore, but it's still not great to have a duplicate IP. So they get marked as yellow, so it's very easy to distinguish between a duplicate IP and a non-duplicate IP. In order to maintain that, this is why I've chose PIA. So one of the questions to become a VIP member in my Discord is like, how many accounts can you use in PIA? Now the actual answer was 11. Okay, that's what the answer I'm looking for, because that's what I say in all of the tutorial videos, is 11 accounts. So, but I've found that to be incorrect, actually. So I don't know where the limit sits now. I actually have 15 PIA accounts. We'll come to that. You saw just now I had 166 agents running there, and each have got a unique IP address, and that is very difficult to do without the right tools. So I do actually have a dedicated video just for this. It's a private video, so please, I should not to share this. And you can also sign up for a free 30-day trial on PIA. If you use that, is a referral link. It doesn't pay me anything. And it's just like, for everybody that signs up, I think they give you like 30 days free. It doesn't make a lot of difference to me, but PIA is the one I use, and that one they'll give you a 30-day free trial, so it's worth you taking it. So basically we're going to just log into this. So one job you will need to do before you start the VPN journey, and like I said, it was complex to get up and running, but I've done my damnedest to make it as easy as I possibly can for you. I put a lot of work into doing this. I think you're going to like what I've done. But understand it's been a lot of work. And one of the biggest challenges is setting up PIA with OpenVPN with all of the right ciphers was quite tricky to do. And then choosing VPN locations that are compatible with the casino. I actually created a zip file here. And when you extract it, and this is one's got it's already pre-configured to work with OpenVPN, and all of the ciphers have been defined. And it's really quite important to understand this. So I have extracted that already, and I've copied it up to the client. And it's important that it stays in your root folder under a folder called VPN, and it's case sensitive. So if you did lowercase and uppercase, all uppercase VPN. And if we look in here, we've got all of the ciphers set for all the different VPN locations. And if we look at one, like Frankfurt, for example, even though like the casino banned Germany, they still work fine on API. So in here, all of the ciphers are set up ready for OpenVPN and PIA. And in here, I've got the root and the intermediary SSL certificate chained. So you have to worry about that hassle. And it's been set to say, to get the credentials to log on to PIA, it's looking for a file called pass. And so that's going to be really critical. When you sign up for PIA, you'll be given a username and password. And that's going to go in a file that doesn't even exist at the moment, but we're going to create it. And we're going to put in there the credentials that it's going to use so that you can connect and authenticate against PIA. So I don't want this to daunt you, because like I have done a lot of work to make this as easy as I possibly can. So literally from your point of view, you've just copied over a folder. It's called VPN, and it's a zip folder. It's in Discord, and you can download it and you can copy it up. You extract it, and these are the folders in there. It's got the certificates, it's got the private key, and it's got the pre-configured ciphers on the configs. And it really is just literally a copy and paste of the commands. You got your PIA credentials, and then we're going to start the install. Now, if I've done my job right, this literally should be a copy and paste process. So in order to start this, we need something. And we need a config file. So we're basically going to say, because my name is user, we're going to copy from the VPN location, the France OVPN, and we're going to copy that to etc OpenVPN, and we're going to rename it to client.conf. And then we need to add our credentials. So I'll add this, it's missing from the command, so I'll add this command in there. So we need to nano a file that does not even exist. We'll create a blank file. Now I need to put my PIA credentials in there. Okay, I've done that. So I've added my PIA credentials into that pass file. So we're back at this stage here. I can enable the OpenVPN service. That's great. And like I said, it's really copy and paste. And then we should be able to start. I mean, that's really promising, guys. We should be able to just curl ifconfig.io and that should turn up a VPN address. And I can tell you that's not my public IP. So that is definitely worked. VPN is running. We've got VPN running. Now, we need to do one other thing because there's a script. This is the bits that you're going to be slightly impressed by, the effort that I've gone to make sure that every single client has a unique IP address was quite a big task. So I've got this script. Okay, and the script creates a VPN location to a random location and it checks to see whether the IP address has been used or not. And the way that it does that is that there's actually some code that runs on the server. Let me show you, which we need to set up. So on the server, there's a code called getips.js. And this is basically going to go to your client config and it's going to pick up whatever's in the API server. So that's the host name. Again, it's going to use Puppeteer to actually log into your Alphaverse here. And it's going to use the credentials that you've got defined in your server config to be able to actually log into the web page, even though there's no desktop or anything installed. There's no actual browser. So we're using Puppeteer to extract out the column where it says IP address and stores that into a JSON file called knownips.txt. Gotta call it JSON, but and it's we go back to the code, and I'm sure you guys would appreciate the effort's gone into here. The restart VPN script. Okay, so it's quite a complex piece of script here that basically extracts information from your client config and extracts down from the server. So it's using the config file to extract out the API server, that's the name of your server, uses JQ to extract the username and password to connect to your server and copies down the known ips.txt file into your bin folder. And then it creates a random connection to one of these locations. And then it checks to see if it's the IP address has been used or not used, and it automatically restarts the VPN until it gets a unique IP address. And this has made life so much easier, because prior to this, I can't underestimate how difficult it was to get a unique IP address on every single client. I struggled, we're on 100, now on 166. It is actually very easy now. So that restart VPN. So if I went into the Alphaverse Live folder, you can actually see it. If we restart the VPN, you can see it's establishing Open VPN service. It will fail here because we missed a step. Well, we actually didn't, but because there's like a default known IP address. But we need to start the on the server itself. We need to run bin restart get IP server.sh. Now, hopefully, if we go into that screen, yeah, this is expected. It's not found because there's literally no clients on there. So when we was doing the server build, we had all of these additional extras that we installed, and we checked to make sure that other dependencies of Chrome were installed as well. This command here, yeah, if there were missing elements, we would have known. So it's crucial that they're installed. Where we are now, I mean, like, this is a client. We're on a VPN address. It should work now once I get the session cookie from Stake. I mean, this really looks good to go, guys. I mean, like, actually, I'd say you're there. So if I went bin, now this command to run Alphaverse, what it does is an optimization technique where it creates a RAM drive and it runs Alphaverse entirely in RAM, in memory. It's significantly faster. It takes a lot of strain off the hard disks, and yeah, you can see what it's using rsync to synchronize the bits that it needs, excludes the bits that it doesn't need, and then it starts the agent. We can see straight away, I mean, it's found the balance. There's not much in there. I haven't used this account for a very long time, but if all gone well, there we are, guys. We actually are there. We've got a client connected to Alphaverse. And if you've got this far, massive, huge congratulations for you, because I've done a lot of work to make this as easy as I possibly can, but I know that it's not easy. So congratulations to you for doing that. I'll just quickly come back to the server so you can see the screen where it's running get IPs. See, it's got it already, and so it will know, when there's a duplicate IP being used, and it will just automatically restart it. And that's a huge amount of work to get that running. I did it because I needed it. And I suppose the final bit here, which I will just slightly add into here, just for your knowledge, but it's not the purpose of this video. The question that probably a lot of you are asking is, what am I actually going to run on here? And that's the bit where I'm going to say to you that is entirely up to you. And this is where you need to come and join Discord. But I do have a couple of scripts in there already. I always try to keep things safe. And if anybody kind of comes in Alphaverse and they lose money, I feel like shit. And I'm not going to lie. So I don't like recommending what to run. But if somebody asks me, I'm always going to take the really safe approach. So included in Alphaverse, there is a couple of codes. No, there's not even that. I mean, I would go to Discord. Come into Discord. Yeah, under the community code, I've been posting strategies over here. So the last one I'd done was, this one here, 1.4, which is what I'm running at the moment. So you can just download this. Just download it. And what we need to do is we need to put that in the client folder of the client. So I should better just copy and paste that up using WinSCP. And there we go there. Now, in order to activate that particular code, we need to change the package.json file to say that the DiceBot is using that script. So the package.json, where it's got DiceBot here, that's the code there. And just save that. And we'll see that the version number, this is 1.1 up there, so this code is 1.4. So if I restart the Alphaverse here, okay, we can see things have changed. It's gone to version 1.4, all good to go. And like I'll say, if you've got this far, massive congratulations to you. So if I go into the DiceBot, you can see, there's not enough funds in there. Let me transfer. Okay, I'll just put 20 in there. So I'm going to stop the DiceBot and just rerun it. And we can see here it's done what it's meant to do. So at the moment it started, paused. I'll run this. There we are. Like, seriously, guys, if you've got this far, you've got your DiceBot running, you've got the client running, you've got the Afterthoughts agent running, you've got the server running. Very, very well done. You need to make yourself known in Discord. Yeah, and even if you're running an out-of-date version of Alphaverse, I think there would be parts that you probably didn't know that would have been useful, and it would have been well for you watching this video. So I'm going to conclude it here. There's a lot to discuss. Okay, there's much more to discuss, and that will all be handled in Discord. My next video will be around how to set up Alphaverse in simulation mode, and then that will probably be preceded by videos around optimization, because if you haven't used this particular button here, this is really extremely helpful, because this basically will run whatever you tell it to run. When you click this button here, it runs on every client a bash script. And what this bash script does, it runs this command here, change.sh. And all this does is just doing nothing. Because if you click it by accident, by default it's doing nothing. That's the default setting. So when you click that, it actually runs this update client. This update client is going to pick up the server name from your client config It's going to put the username and password. It's going to run an SCP session to your server and copies down the server version of, in your bin folder, change.sh. Now you can put whatever you want in here, anything that you can control via bash scripts, which is pretty much anything. So you can use search and replace command to make changes to configuration files. You can copy files from the server. You can change strategies. You can copy files from one location to another. You can pretty much fully control Alphaverse with just that one button. So there's a bunch of scripts that I'll be sharing with people that how I use this. I use it for a lot. I use it to drain down and send everybody's vault to one particular account, or draining down. I use it for so many things. And so I will start to share some of those scripts. So at the risk of just waffling on about nothing, I think we draw a conclusion on this video, but keep an eye out for future videos because they're going to be geared around optimization, and I feel I'm going to draw a line under the installation now. I think I covered it enough times now, but this is the first time I've actually made this particular video public. They've all been private, but because Alphaverse is now available on a public GitHub repository, there'll be people that will find this that are not even part of Discord. I do highly recommend you join Discord though, because that's where you're going to get the content. Even if it isn't for the videos that I produce, it's the community that's behind Alphaverse that is you're going to find absolutely essential. Right, that is really enough of me just completely waffling on. And like I say, if you've done this and you follow this and you got this working, I congratulate you and I welcome you, and I look forward to speak to you in Discord, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.